Did you expect an attack so big? And is it an attack on the press?
No, I didn't expect the attack to be so big, but in a way it shows how those who attack are so weak, because they picked the vulnerable people that, it's got nothing to do with them. They just report the news, and good or bad, it's the news. Whoever it is wants to stir and cause mayhem in the society. It doesn't matter if it's left or right, up or down. But whoever it is designed. This attack are designed to cause problems. That's it.
One can never expect an attack like that, because I don't have a crystal ball. But yes, in France, I knew that France was under attack. It was predictable. An attack like the one the press had this morning, because it was clearly against the press. They did not choose Charlie Hebdo just like that. I remember that it was Charlie Hebdo who put on the front page the cartoon on the Prophet Mohammed. So yeah, it was against the press, yes.
This is much bigger than an attack on freedom of press, although you can interpret it as such. But I think this is a much bigger thing. What's happened is an assassination. It is not a normal terrorist attack. Usually, if it was Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Nusra, it would be a suicide bombing. Why not a suicide bombing in Paris for such a big target? I think the circumstances are dubious and they raise a lot of questions. They have chosen their target. It's a soft target. These people are very highly professional. The way they have conducted the attack shows that they have planned it for such a long time. And they sent very professional people. And they concealed every indication to show their identity. They speak French, and they were keen to say Allahu Akbar. This is the only thing that is linked to Islam here, is that everybody can say Allahu Akbar. Even someone who doesn't believe in God can say Allahu Akbar. Abnormal things about that is that these people managed to get away with such big murder. They were choosing their targets, they were calling them by names. This is an organized crime, organized on the highest level. These people are highly professional, and I cannot rule out that this has been done by intelligence or states.
Nobody can say that they expected it, but I think that there have been telltale signs before, starting from Salman Rushdie and going on to the Danish cartoons and so on and so forth, that there is a strong segment of jihadis who are willing to go to any length to attack people for using speech.
Well, actually, Charlie Hebdo has been under attack in 2011, and Sharp, who was the head of the redaction, was under protection. So, of course, I wasn't expecting, such a huge attack. But if something was going to happen against a media in France, Charlie Hebdo was right in the pictures.
Yeah, it is, and I think that with 12 dead and the footage that you see of people in ski masks doing it, it's a different form. There have been fire bombings. There are attacks on the press all over the world. This seems to be of a different quality, and I think it changes things. It means that these publications can be targeted with sort of military hit squads, and it's a big problem.
This newspaper was a very critical and satirical newspaper that ran spoofs for many years, laughing and making fun of the most radical arm of Islam, as well of Christians that were fanatics in Europe and in France. So it stretched the meaning of freedom of the press. It was a good example of a newspaper that is exercising at a very high point the right to express an opinion that could be very controversial.
Of
course, it's an attack on the press, a very bad attack, and I hope they catch these people.
What do you think about the reaction here at the United Nations by the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and also by the Security Council?
Well, I mean, what do you think? It's United Nations.
They did what they had to do, of course. I mean, whenever there is something like that, we have the same reaction. It's horrible. We deplore. What can I say? Is it going to change anything? No. They did what they had to do.
Well, it was a prompt reaction, but it was, as usual, like it happened too often at the UN, from the part of the Secretary General of the Security Council, a verbal reaction. Secretary General reacted like he's supposed to do, condemning with a strong term. Security Council also. But the Security Council don't follow the promise of the commitment that they get in the statement, or let's say in verbal statement, to condemn an event or another event, or in this case a massacre of journalists and policemen.
Put his reaction in European context. We hear about rise of fascism in Europe. This comes in a very unusual circumstances. France voted in the Security Council in support of Palestine. And I can say another thing, maybe people can construe it differently, but Netanyahu recently said that we fear the European position with regard to a Palestinian state more than we fear Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian authorities' accession to the ICC. And this is a very big thing to say. I believe there are so many forces who have vested interest in preventing harmony between the Islamic world and Europe. Yes, there are extremists, there are Wahhabi Salafists who should be revised, who should be addressed, and this has been postponed for such a long time. Wahhabism is a threat to Islam, not just to Europe and to the world.
Secretary General was absolutely right saying that this is an attack on the cornerstone of our beliefs. He was not correct in saying that we shouldn't allow this to divide us. I want to be divided from people who think that the Kalashnikov is mightier than the pencil. I don't think that it's right that we should be united with such people. I think that these are enemies of free speech, or the cornerstone of our freedoms, as he said, and therefore we should be divided from them. We should fight them.
Ban Ki-moon reacts a bit late in the morning, but he strongly condemns this attack. And I mean, what can he say? I mean, it's horrific.
The Security Council, reacted about 1 p.m., and for them that's very fast. And the reason is they have to check with all 15 members before they issue any statement. So for them this was very quick. The Secretary General, frankly, I thought it was not only a little bit slow but badly done, in the sense that he's the Secretary General. He might call the U.S. and ask him sometimes what he should do, but on something like this, he's obviously free to speak very early. So as early as 8 in the morning here in New York, 7 in the morning, Cameron had spoken, Obama put something out, everyone was speaking. The UN, I think, I'm not sure why, he had a previously scheduled appearance in a private journalist club that's not even of all the journalists at the UN, and so they put it off to then, but then it also wasn't publicized beyond just the membership of that one group, nor was it put live on UN TV where stations all over the world could take it. So I think they need to really think again, when he's going to speak on an important topic, it should be announced to everybody to get maximum coverage. It shouldn't be privatized in any way. I think they made a mistake.
One would have expected Ban Ki-moon to be quicker in his reaction. But well, all in all, it was an adequate reaction, I think. It was strange as well that during his press encounter he didn't take questions. So one would have hoped that if he was talking about freedom of the press, he would have a little bit more open to answer questions himself.
There were many separate ones from missions to the United Nations, separate countries and so forth.
Today, do you feel that you are a different journalist than you were yesterday?
No, not at all. It's part of the life. We are like soldiers. This is our gun, and the papers is our the way we see the world. No, nothing. If we see it different, then we should go and drive a taxi cab or do something else.
Different, I mean, I don't know. We are very privileged. We're in New York. We're at the UN. I mean, we are not on the field. We were not kidnapped. We were not targeted yet. So different, no. But what I think is that as a journalist, we should be aware that the freedom of the press is gone.
I don't feel different after the Paris massacre. I think that being a journalist today is not a question of courage, but is a question of honesty and being constantly connected to the reality and the truth. In this case, to maintain the truth, you need a courage, and you need a courage mostly to prevent pressure, political pressure, violent pressure, or all kind of pressure. This is a profession for all journalists like me or young journalists that doesn't change. You have to search the truth, you have to serve the people that they read your news or watch your news. And in order to do that, you have to be clear and honest.
I don't think so.
When you're a journalist, you're a journalist every minute, and no, it wouldn't change anything. It just, as a journalist, I feel like, I've lost, people from my family. When you attack a newspaper, you attack, all the journalists and all the newspapers and all the media.
I guess I want to put it this way. You could go too far, and you could say, all journalists should have armed guards, or they shouldn't write anything controversial. I write some things that are controversial. I don't want to say I try not to insult religions, not out of fear, but just because that's not what I write about. But even here in the UN, there's a lot of pressure. I once wrote a story about a person that fell to their death outside the UN, and I was told by the UN to change the coverage of it because it was too controversial. So I think that's very different than obviously doing a hit squad, but I think it's an opportunity for people to think, even those who are saying, what about websites that support, there's something we discussed, that support this killing. I don't like those websites, but let's be clear, this too is expression. You know what I mean? I think the danger in something like this is to say you shouldn't write anything controversial because they might kill you, and only the largest media corporations that can have essentially their own Blackwater to protect them will have the ability to write. Another side point, and I don't want to analogize spying to this kind of murder, but the reality is media organizations, it was shown through the NSA thing, they need to be very careful about being spied on by major U.S. and other companies and other countries in how they talk to their sources. So there's many threats out there for journalists, but I think my focus is going to be, has to be to not view it with so much fear that only the New York Times and AP and Reuters can do journalism. The one beauty of this era has been the diffusion of smaller publications, Charlie Hebdo, and even smaller than that. So I think this is a situation that journalist organizations should look at, how independent journalists and smaller media can operate in this environment without self-censorship.
I don't know yet. I just know that I'm so shocked by it. Je suis très désolée that I have watched television programs all day long looking for information on this. So I'm a journalist who didn't work very much today outside of watching this dreadful saga unfold.